originally I had intended on jumping right into a new segment and talking about all the teams that have changed the game and spend some time in the chat and everything. Instead, I thought best to just get the discuss the first two games, not in the usual format of breaking them down segment by segment, but jump right into the game of what happened this morning, and discuss the changes. So to get that out of the way, I haven't really formed an opinion on whether or not All Madden is good yet. I've only played 2 games, and you have to remember these are my first 2 games with a new team that is nothing like the team I had in Jacksonville. I brought over some pieces, but it's totally different. I don't have Justin Fields. I don't have the O line I had there. I don't have all the weapons. I have good weapons. I don't have the same weapons. They play a little differently. My defense is vastly different. I had a really stacked defense I'd put together. I don't really have that, so it's kind of difficult to go one for one. If I was still in Jacksonville, I could probably more accurately discuss how much has changed. For now, I can only go off of what I've seen and what I've experienced in the first two, understanding that I don't know the difference between how this team plays now and how it played last season. First things first, tackling's been a little weird. We've all seen weird kind of animational things where it kind of looks like a player gets hit and then they go into the stagger animation and then they get kind of bumped and they don't get tackled. So they catch themselves out of the stagger and then just keep going. We've seen 2 or 3 of those. Some people have posted it. I think it happened in Nate's game tonight. This is Friday night. I'm filming about an hour, hour and a half after I finished against Minnesota. Um, so we've seen some weirdness there. I think some of that is able to be fixed just with some tackle slider adjustments. So it's not going to be a game breaking thing. It probably has to do with all like the boom tech and the physics engine and all that stuff kind of working together but a little wrong. And because we don't switch on, the game is heavily dependent on people switching on. You won't see those animations if you have a user tackle chaining into another user tackle. So what we're probably seeing is just what happens when you don't have those. What we have noticed a little is defense. I want to start with people keep saying things like, well, now it plays defense. We didn't play defense under All Pro. And I keep thinking to myself, like, my guy, and I can't help but think, like, this is a league where the average interception rate for a quarterback was like 20 to 25 a season, if not more. Like that's like we're a league that gives up like 600 turnovers to interceptions like per season, and we're talking about how it didn't play defense. If that wasn't defense, what's going to happen on All Madden? You know what I mean? Like, oh, we'll see fewer drags and teams will throw the ball downfield more. We were throwing the ball downfield on All Pro, and y'all were throwing a lot of picks. There were 4 teams, and I can say y'all because I only threw 12 picks last season, and I was playing with Justin Fields. So, granted, I throw a lot less than a lot of you, but there were only like 4 teams in the league that had a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and we're talking about how All Pro didn't play defense. I don't know, man. It seems a little weird to say. I understand what you mean, but like, I am interested to see what the turnover rates are going to be for this league on All Madden, because All Madden, if you've probably played by now at least 1 game. I played 2. What I have noticed is that coverage is tighter. Um, it's not impossibly tight, but it is tighter. And pass rush is better. It doesn't always result in sacks, but there is a lot more pressure. I have noticed I got sacked twice against Hurt, and I think once or twice against the Panthers. but it wasn't the sacks. It just seemed like there was somebody in my face a lot of the time. So we're talking about there will be fewer drags if quarterbacks don't have as much time to throw the ball and the windows are smaller and the only routes that seem to really get open are drag routes, we're not going to see fewer of them. I've watched games already that have had like 40 to 45% drag routes. My first game, I threw 8 of my 21 passes were drag routes. That's like 35%. And I tried not to. I started the game 4 of 10 passing though, trying to throw my normal offense from last season. I hadn't had time to go through the playbook and rebuild it. So I ran my offense from last season. I started 4 of 10. I finished 14 of 21 for 156 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. And to be fair, Carolina's just a stacked team. So that could have just been that issue. Again, it was my first game. I hadn't played with this team before. So that could just be an adjustment curve. It's kind of why I haven't really made an opinion on it yet. It's just I don't have enough information. So I don't know if we're going to see fewer drags. We might as the season goes on. People get used to the pressure. They get used to throwing the ball downfield a little more. They find plays that work in all Madden. It might be fine. I don't know. My game against Minnesota was pretty good. I honestly couldn't tell you right now. Just in 2 games played, I know some people are going to get really excited for all Madden. In this community, we seem to really get excited with new changes, and if they don't work out, we just get excited for the next change. You guys are really positive people. I am not. I do not function that way. But y'all are trying to, the good vibes, so people are trying to be excited about all Madden right now, and some people want it all Madden. They think it'll fix something. I don't think it will. I think it'll make the things that you guys want changed. I don't think this will fix it. I don't know that there's a better solution, so we'll give it a shot. This is the perfect time to try it out and test it and see what happens, and we'll go forward. But I don't know. There's been some shakiness to start. Hopefully over time we can, as a league, figure out some of these issues and solve them, and then we'll be fine for next season. So we'll see what happens. Now, 2 games. Don't know if I mentioned it. We won the second game. We lost the first one. I threw for 190 yards and a touchdown in the second game. I would have thrown for 156, 2 touchdowns and an interception in the first. Those are the stats I'm going by, even at the end of the season. The first game simmed, and my quarterback threw for like 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I don't know, man. I got a lot of yards for Brian Thomas Jr. He got like 250. So I mean, that's great and all, but those aren't real yards. That's not what I earned. So, we're going into games against Detroit and then Carolina again. I expect to be 1-3, and just in time to open up the trade window for first and second overall picks. I don't know, man. I might cash out. I'm thinking of cashing out next season, trading everything I can trade, picking up as many picks as I can, and just unloading them into draft picks that I can use to import for Madden 26. I don't know that there's enough time to fix the things that are wrong with this team before the end of the game. We have 3 seasons, but we're in that 1 season. 2 seasons left. It's not like with Jacksonville and I can move some pieces around and figure it out before the cycle ended. This seems like I'm probably fighting a lost cause. Gonna have to wait until the end of the cycle and see what they do with some of these players and try to figure it out from there. But we'll just continue plugging away, keep working. If if I can keep throwing the ball fairly effectively, maybe Penix gets star or superstar, and not that it matters. I don't want to have him for next Madden, so uh, we'll see. We'll try to build it and try to make it work and see what happens, and kind of go from there. Season 4 is going to be my big year. I'm going to have a lot of money opening cap. Um, we'll get back to the old format, the normal format of like discussing the games and throwing in the clips and the screenshots and whatnot for next episode. This one I just wanted to have a conversation, discuss kind of my thoughts on the early part of the alt-Madden cycle, and get it kind of out of the way. I'll probably have a more definitive answer mid-season, near the end of the season, where I'll say for sure if I think we should stay there for next season or not. But for now, it's kind of whatever. We'll see what happens. Now that we have gotten through all of that, I was thinking, as I was going through some of the stuff on the Discord and whatnot, I came across the Press Pass Live mailbag, and I saw a question that I really liked. And I thought to myself, I kind of wish I could answer that question. I don't want to answer a lot of questions. I don't want to answer multiple questions, but one particular question was really interesting, got me thinking, and I thought, if only I had an opportunity to take that question intended for Nate and Maniac and Dwayne and think about it and answer it myself in a more comprehensive way, because they do an hour and a half long show. When the mailbag comes along, they're trying to get through 6, 7, 8, 9 questions at a time. They're probably seeing it for the first time, and they don't get a chance to really expand upon things because the show's already been going on for about an hour by the time they get to it. So I thought, what if I stole a question? Because now I have a platform. I've created a platform where I can answer these questions that I like, do something different with them, call it something like mail theft, something stupid like that, with get a whole new intro for it, explosions, etc. Just kind of go crazy with it, have a little fun, but essentially take these questions or at least one question every so often, and kind of look into it and really think about it. The only rule would be that I cannot answer a question until they have, because I don't want to steal, literally thieve their questions. But once they've answered it, once they've put it on Press Pass Live, they've given it a time, it's got the green check mark, then I don't see any harm in me coming along and taking that question and expanding on it. Now, I don't know if Nate watches these videos. I know he's watched a couple. I don't know if he's going to see this one. If this is a problem, he can message me, tell me not to do it, cease and desist. We'll close it down for future episodes then. But if there isn't a problem, and so long as I wait for them to answer first so that I'm not stealing anything from them, maybe I have a new segment I can do on this show for future episodes. Now, the question I wanted to take a look at is one that I thought I would be uniquely qualified to answer. Comes from Cincy Iceberg, New York Jets. Why do teams in the top 10 of the draft trade their picks for high-end players and expiring contracts of 1 or 2 years? As someone who, in the first 2 seasons of this cycle, has traded 3 of their first-round picks, 2 from the Jaguars, 1 from Atlanta after the switch, I feel that I have a window into this question that, I don't know, might be interesting, might be different, might be a giant waste of time, but we'll figure it out. Now, I think the why can be pretty quickly examined. Generally speaking, if you're trading a top 10 pick, odds are you are a player that has a good roster that just had a bad year and you're looking to make that one extra move that gets you over the top. Sometimes it's an impatience thing. You have a roster that is going to be in the bottom a lot and you just want to try to speed up the rebuild. Some people can't be at the draft, so they figure I might as well get a player or two that I know, um, rather than take a chance at whatever the CPU is going to draft for me. Uh, Other people, sometimes you look at the trade block and you see flashy names. I think we had Marvin Harrison Jr. at one point on there. You see these really interesting, good players, and you just kind of get excited, and one thing leads to another, and you're in a 2-hour conversation, and a trade's made. A lot of this stuff can happen, happens all the time. Now, for me personally, when it comes down to trading my first round pick, especially in the top 10, but just in general, this cycle I have traded 3 first round picks, as I said. They were, at the time of the trade, 14th, 11th, and 5th, I believe. So I've traded 3 picks that were really high value. And it's really just down to the math for me. It starts with, what do I need? Most positions can get taken in the second round. You can get them in free agency. They don't cost that much if you're trading for them. So you don't need a first round pick to get some of them. The ones you do need a first round pick, in my opinion, are quarterback and corner. Those are the only two where you desperately need a first round pick, and you have to hope that those picks are particularly high, because those positions can go quickly, and the elite versions of those positions, the elite players at them, will go really fast. For the most part, the better corners get taken in the top 15 or so picks. So if you're not in there, it might be worth to trade the pick, but more often than not, if you are, that's really the only time you really, in my opinion, desperately need to keep on to your first round pick. So when it comes to me, if I don't need those positions, I'm more interested in moving the pick than I am keeping it. Doesn't mean I won't keep it. It kind of depends on your roster. If you are a competitive team looking for that one more piece, you might trade it. But if you're a competitive team that's already has all the pieces and you need cheap players, drafting makes a lot more sense. If you are a rebuilding team and you're kind of far away, you might trade it to get extra picks and stuff, or you try to take the highest end value you can, you select the pick, and you just keep rolling until you get all the bad contracts off your book, and then once they're gone, you have all of these young players, and then maybe you use your first round pick to get some value or something. For me personally, it's all about, in my opinion, value projection. I've had some rough starts, 2-4 and 2-2 when I've traded my first round picks. But I look at the games I've played and I say, this team, the Jaguars at the time, is a team that I can compete with. My losses are by a touchdown or less. I can compete with this if I get one more piece. My pick is currently valued at X amount, but if I start winning these games, I can make some profit, I guess, would be maybe not the right word. So, for example, I trade first season. I trade my first round pick to the New Orleans Saints, to Nate, for Lattimore. Lattimore was about 1,000 points, and I think my draft pick was 14th, so about 1,100 points. So that's the trade I make, and then I get Marshawn Lattimore for the first season at 90 overall X Factor, second season 90 overall X Factor, I would have had him this season, 90 overall star, still a top level corner. And next season, also 90 overall with regression prevention, probably same about a star, with a cap hit of between like 5 and 7 million for 1,000 points. The pick that Nate used would have ended up somewhere in the, I want to say, mid to late 20s, 24, 26, 28 in that range, because I made the second round. So I think maybe 26th. The value on that would have been somewhere in the 600s. So at the end of it, while he got his first round pick, and he got the running back, I believe, with that pick, the one that he really likes, Reggie Bush Jr., I like to call him. While he got that player, at the end of it, I got 400 free points of value and a superstar corner. The next season, pretty much the same thing played out. I got a superstar lineman for what was, at the time, like the 12th pick, plus my second rounder and another offensive lineman. I got those players. The pick, I think, was valued at pick 11, 1,200 points, 1,250 points or so. And Fashanu was valued at about 1,400 points. There were a couple other moving pieces in that, but for the most part, that's what I traded to get this offensive lineman. Fast forward, it's the 22nd overall pick, worth 780. So at the end, it comes down to me making a little bit of value on those picks by trading them early enough that I could win games and decrease their value while the asset I traded for stays the same or improves upon their value. When it came to the Atlanta pick, that was more about value management because I already knew what the pick number was going to be. There was no fluctuation. I couldn't win any more games. All I could do was trade it for the most amount of value I could. In terms of like how many players I had coming in or what type of players I had coming in. Now, this Atlanta Falcons team, it's expensive, but I knew that I was going to have most of my expensive players come off the book next season. I have $140 some odd million available in cap in one off season. So I didn't need a first round pick for cheap players. I'm also closer to competing with the roster I have than I am in a rebuild. So I did not need to keep on to it. So I looked aggressively into trading it and bringing in the pieces that I needed to finish the roster and begin competing in a new division that I've never played in. Now, one of the trades that I had going for a while was essentially getting 4 starters for my number 1 pick. It valued at about 1,800 at pick number 5, and I could have gotten roughly 4 players valued at about 500. Eventually, what I went into was getting the Brian Thomas Jr. trade, giving me a really good player immediately that fits in with my team. But you can do either or. You get one really good player, or at least one player that will develop quickly. Now, nobody could have known that, I think it's Michael Cologne, or I don't remember his first name, but Cologne, for the guy from that Cincy took, the Bengals. Nobody could have known how good he was going to be. But that first round pick could have gotten me multiple starters. At the very least, it helped me facilitate getting 2 in Juan Peterson, my right guard, who's still very young and developing, and Brian Thomas Jr. This was more valuable to me just based on where my team is. And the positions I really do need are probably quarterback and corner. And even with the top 5 pick, I didn't like the either draft for those positions. So it didn't make sense to keep onto the picks. So I used all of my picks to accumulate as much value onto my roster as possible. So I hope that answers the question adequately. I hope I've done it thoroughly. As someone who has traded multiple first round picks, including highly projected picks and top 5 picks, I hope I've explained at least where my thought process comes from. Everybody's obviously different. Some people, as I said in the beginning, some people are just impatient. They don't want to wait to draft a bunch of players. Some people can't be there. They don't trust the CPU. Some people, have a bunch of different reasons. They would rather have players that are good right now because they don't like developing players or they're not good at developing players. Developing players is, in some ways, pretty difficult if you don't take the time to really focus on how you want them developed and how you need them developed into a system that you run. Some players are really good at it. D-Money is really good at making players that look great and have good value and high overall that might not necessarily play as well. I don't know if you've ever looked at some of the corners he's traded. They are kind of average athletically with really high man coverage, which makes them look really good. But if you ask them to press or play the slot or play zone coverage, they fall apart immediately. But they look really good because he's really good at building his top 4 into his system and his bottom 3 into trade pieces that look really good. And it's an art form. I give him all the credit in the world because he does it every season. I've watched every cycle that I've been in the grown folks community. I've watched the OMFL and I've watched what he does, and it's absolute masterclass because he always gets somebody to bite. And some people are really good at doing that. They're really good at building specific types of players, some to fit their needs, some to entice other people into picking and trading. But generally speaking, that's the reason teams will trade a top 10 pick. Those are all the reasons. Those are my reasons. And I hope that answers the question. So at this point, in real life, it is Tuesday night. My game's Thursdays, so we're going to jump forward in time from my perspective and get into week 1 against the Carolina Panthers. Funny story past me. We've already done that. I put that at the front of the episode. You have reached the end. For this week, we are probably done. The sim should be Sunday, so probably next Friday or Saturday, the next episode should come out. And that should be recapping weeks 3 and 4. So, thank you for listening. If you made it this far, Nate, if you've made it this far and you have a problem with all the stuff I just did, feel free to message me. Now that we've finished that, I'm going to end this right off now. For the OMFL, this has been the AFR. I've been the host, Mike Fleury, and as always, I'll try to do better next time.